Let's dive into a modern classic that asks a really powerful question. What does a truly successful life actually look like? The answer, you'll find, might not be what you think. It's so easy to confuse a high standard of living with a high quality of life. We're all taught to chase success, right? The money, the status, all the stuff. But what about significance? What about that feeling of deep fulfillment? That's the real tension we're going to explore today. So let me just ask you straight up. Does your life feel like this sometimes? You're constantly on the go, running on a treadmill that's just a little too fast, and you're not even sure you're getting anywhere that really matters? Well, that exact feeling, that's right where our story kicks off. All right, so meet Julian Mantle. This guy is a superstar lawyer. We're talking a seven-figure income, a huge mansion, and of course, a shiny red Ferrari. He had everything. And then, one day, right in the middle of a packed courtroom, he had a massive heart attack. His so-called success nearly killed him. That crisis became his ultimate wake-up call. Julian did something most of us would think is crazy. He sold everything. The mansion, the private jet, even that famous Ferrari. And he just disappeared. He went looking for answers in the mountains of the Himalayas. So years go by, and then Julian returns. But he's a completely different person. He's vibrant, he's peaceful, and he is just brimming with wisdom. And he came back with a secret, a whole system for living that he learned from these mystical sages of Savannah, all wrapped up in this really strange and unforgettable story. And this brings us to the very first and maybe most important step. Before Julian shares anything, he gives a warning. He says, like this cup, you are full of your own stale ideas. To truly learn something new, you have to be willing to unlearn the old stuff first. So for the next few minutes, let's just agree to empty our cups together. Okay, and this is the key to the whole entire philosophy. A garden, a lighthouse, a sumo wrestler. I know, it sounds totally bizarre, right? But just stick with me here. These 7 weird elements, they form this powerful mental math, and it's designed to lock in the 7 virtues for a truly enlightened life. So let's do it. Let's decode this fable. Each one of these strange symbols is like a key that unlocks a powerful principle for mastering your life. And we're going to start with the foundation of it all. The story begins in this beautiful, lush green garden. And it starts there for a very specific reason. Because this symbol, the garden, it represents the soil from which everything else in your life grows, your mind. The garden is your mind. It's that simple. And just like a gardener, you have to stand guard at the gate of your mind. You got to cultivate all those positive thoughts and pull out the weeds, the worry, the fear, the negativity, before they can ever take root. I mean, think about this quote. The sages teach this incredible technique called opposition thinking. It's actually really simple, but it's not easy. The second a negative thought pops into your head, you have to consciously, deliberately replace it with a positive one. It's a mental workout that can totally change your reality. So you're in this peaceful garden, and then, out of nowhere, a huge, towering lighthouse erupts right from the center, shining its beam. So what could this possibly represent in our little mental map? That lighthouse, that's your purpose. It's your why. It's the thing that gives you direction and helps guide all of your decisions. The book argues that true happiness doesn't really come from achieving your goals, but from the process. From always moving towards goals that actually mean something to you. Okay, and then the door of the lighthouse creaks open, and out walks a 9-foot-tall, 900-pound sumo wrestler. Yep, this is where the story gets really, really memorable. So this giant sumo wrestler, he represents the principle of kaizen. It's a Japanese idea that basically means constant and never-ending improvement. It's all about self-mastery, about discipline, and just making that commitment to be a tiny bit better today than you were yesterday. Now let's put this whole crazy puzzle together. The sumo wrestler, he's only wearing a pink wire cable, which represents the power of self-discipline. Then he finds a golden stopwatch. That's a reminder that our time is the most precious thing we have. He starts to smell something, and he follows the scent of yellow roses, which symbolize the idea that a truly meaningful life comes from selflessly serving others. And finally, he realizes the path he's walking on is made of shimmering diamonds, reminding us to live fully in the present moment, because that's where all of life's real treasures are. And that's it. That's the whole fable. So, okay, it's a beautiful philosophy, a great story, but how do you actually live it? That's what the book is famous for, turning these big ideas into real, concrete daily actions. Julian learned 10 specific rituals from the sages. Things like waking up early to work on yourself, the whole 5 a.m. club idea, practicing silence every day to calm your mind, reading for at least 30 minutes, using positive mantras. See, the philosophy changes how you think, but the rituals change your day. Now, let's be honest. If you break these ideas down, they're not exactly brand new, right? We've all heard live in the now and be positive. But the real genius of this book is how it weaves all this timeless wisdom into a story that's so compelling, it completely bypasses our cynicism. And that brings us to the final and most important question. This one's for you. Julian had to sell his literal Ferrari to find his purpose. So, what's the thing, the belief, the habit, the job that you're clinging to that might be holding you back from a more significant life? What is your metaphorical Ferrari?